Hi, I'm Simon.
And I'm Stuart.
So, we're currently visiting our parents for 4th of July.
Yep, and it's been a pretty busy week to get to this point so far.
So, we've been fixing our outboard and various leaks.
Yep, dealing with the propane system and some deck leaks. Plus, Santa came early for us and we got some new through hauls, which we're pretty excited about. See those later in the video.
Before we get to that, let's revisit the outboard.
Alright, let's go.
If you watched Tuesday's video, you may know of our outboard. Our 23-year-old Mercury 5 horsepower 2-stroke outboard does not like to start. We really want to fix this outboard and make her run again. We do not want to fork over the cash for a new outboard right now. Plus, there's an argument that reusing an old outboard is more environmentally friendly. I tried changing the spark plug. For my untrained eye, it was probably reasonable to do so.
Yeah, old and a little dirty.
Next, I pulled off the carburetor and went to clean it.
Alright, so now we're gonna clean this carburetor. Let's see if I can do this. So that's the bottom of the bowl. A little dirty, but it's not bad.
Let's zoom in. The carb might be fine. Let's clean everything else and reassemble. And now the carb goes back in. Let's try starting the outboard again. Yep, the outboard isn't running yet. To everyone that has given us advice, thank you. We will get this outboard running eventually. Now, let's see how Stuart is doing with the propane system.
One of the projects we're working on this week is we're going to get our propane system working. This is our propane stove right here. And we have no clue if it works or not. It looks really rough. We'll have to figure things out. But to start, we need to make sure all of the stuff that gets to the stove is functional. We need to make sure all the switches work, and all the solenoids work, and like all the regulators, the tanks have gas, there's no leaks. Once we figure all that stuff out, we can then try turning on the stove. The stove looks rough. There's no two ways about that. But having the stove work, and more importantly even the oven, having that all work, that opens a realm of things we can do for cooking. Like, we can do all kinds of baking, French bread, casseroles, stromboli, pizza. The options are endless. And I'd be very happy to be able to be baking again. So, first up, we need to make sure all the electrical solenoid stuff works. Because if none of that works, there's no point trying to leak test any of the plumbing. So, let's go through that real quick. Over here on the board, we have a gas valve switch. Supposedly this is the one. But, if we go over to the galley, we have this switch as well. I'm willing to bet that both switches have to be turned on in order for the solenoid to operate. So, we're going to test that. So let's go outside. Let's take a look at that. Alright, so this is the plumbing we're dealing with. We've got 2 tanks, and they're of reasonable size. And it goes into a CGA fitting here, into a nice little T for a
pressure and all that. Here's the regulator, and then it goes into a hose. Hose snakes around and goes into this solenoid here. From that solenoid, it then snakes around in this, I think, copper pipe. I think it's copper, and goes into the bung here. And that's where it disappears. Well, in here, behind the stove is where it comes out, and it connects with the stove underneath somewhere. And that's all there is to it. So, let's play around with this stuff, see what we can figure out. So, plan of action is going to be pretty simple. We're going to flip the first switch on the electrical board, and we're going to listen to hear the solenoid click. If the solenoid clicks on that first switch, cool, we might be able to have gas running through. If it doesn't click, then maybe when we flip the second switch, we'll hear it click. And then we have gas flowing. If that doesn't work, then we might need to replace the valve, which will suck. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Let's first try flipping some switches. Okay. Yep. It clicked.
The propane solenoid works. Woohoo!
Okay, so we're just gonna give it a little bit of gas. And close that valve. Now, we have our sensor here. We're trying to detect any kind of leak. Let's see, right here. Yep. We have a propane leak. Here, I think I know what's going on. Let's hold it there for a second. Yep. So what we have here was a classic mistake, and that is applying thread tape to every single thread. Right here. That's thread tape there. You do not put thread tape on CGA fittings, which is what's the common fitting for most pressurized gas tanks like this, like the propane, pretty much anything for welding, I think. But they're all fitting. Those fittings, they all have other methods of sealing, so you do not place thread tape onto them. So we're gonna have to remove that thread tape. That's an easy fix. Let's do that real quick. Okay, so we have here the CGA fitting. This thread tape is gonna prevent this O-ring here, this gasket, O-ring, whatever, from properly sitting in the bottom of the cone that it goes into. And when that happens, it's not gonna seal right. So all we have to do is remove this tape, and maybe that fixes everything.
While I was right that the thread tape does not go on a CGA fitting, I was foolish thinking it was placed by mistake.
Okay, so we just give it a little bit of gas. And it wasn't all the way tightened in. Darn, okay. Let's tighten that thing down some more.
I was quick to assume I simply did something wrong. Little did I know at the moment, the thread tape is what kept the leaking to a minimum. It was only later that I figured out what was going on. But first, let's go take care of a different leak.
We've been dealing with a very, very annoying problem. And that is, there's been a leak from somewhere in our deck. And it leaks down into our galley
and onto the counters, and it just creates a mess. Well, last night we had a nice big powerful downpour come through, and it was also nice and long, so we had time to poke around a little bit, and we made some discoveries. Right here, underneath this hatch, we saw water dripping. And this hatch right here is, if I pull back a little bit, that is the turtle for our companionway. I'm gonna see if I can open it up and poke around, see what we can learn. Double check that it's a spot. Can we get this? Oh. Well, that was surprising. Why did it come off so easy? Interesting. Let's try to get in. That was weird. So we did some exploration, and it's very likely that that catch is leaking. So what we're going to do for now is we're going to tape it, and if next rainstorm we're not seeing the leak, then next course of action is probably either going to be to rebed or replace the deck hatch.
Yep, just tape over it and forget it. This way, if we stop the leak in the next rainstorm, then we know that it is the deck hatch that's leaking. We might have spares to replace it then.
And we got our through hauls. There's all of our through hauls. We have 7 1.5 inch through hauls we're putting in, 2 1-inch through hauls, and 1 3/4 inch through haul. We're also going to be replacing a bunch of the vents with these. We've got ourselves some scoops. We're also getting a new water strainer put in. So, that first week that we were here, and I was spending all the time on the computer buying stuff, that's what I was buying. And it's great to see that we just got most of it in. I think we might be waiting on just a couple more things. There's probably a couple more things we still need to buy, but we're getting there. We're getting ready to haul the boat out and do a lot of the bottom work, like replacing our through hulls with Marlin. Whoa! Simon was just telling me to explain why we're going with Marlon, and the answer is pretty simple. They don't rust, they don't corrode, they are giant solid beefcake composite through hulls. These things are going to be strong, and they're not going to corrode. They should last us the next 20 years. That's the idea. And I'd like to see this boat sailing for another 20 years. So that's why. Alright, we're back at it with the propane system. So, one of the first things we need to do before we continue is we need to verify if it is the connector on the tank that's the issue, or if it's the connector on the regulator that's the issue. Regardless of what it is, we're probably buying brand new tanks, because somewhere around here, let's put it right here, you can see that this is the date on our tank, and at least I think it's the date, and it's from like 2007 or something. It says right here. Either way, we have to replace the tank, so we're going to be doing that. However, it'd be really nice if we could use the propane in there, because there's propane in there and it'd be a lot easier, nicer, cleaner, etc. Just to go ahead and use it if we can. But to do that, we have to figure out Is the connector on the tank bad, or is it simply the connector on the regulator that's bad? To do this, we're getting a little help from our parents. They offered to lend us one of their tanks so we can do this testing. We'll be returning to them shortly after we connect it into our system. Well, all we'll do is connect it in, open it up, see if we get any leaks, close it up. If it leaks, it means the regulator has a bad connector. If it doesn't leak, then it means the connector on the tank is bad. And we won't have propane until we replace the tank. So, let's go ahead and try this out. Alright. So this is our parents' tank, all connected in. It's kind of sitting in there awkward, but this will do. Let's turn it on. And close. Alright, let's grab a sniffer. Sniffing. Interesting. Alright. I think that basically tells us what we need to do here. We need to replace the really old tank with a newer tank. So, time for me to go spend some money. Yay. Yay me.
So we've been spending money like crazy to get the boat fixed up.
Yep. Our mom shared with us this one meme. I'll just place it over top of our faces. We're not homeless. We're just we just got some sailboat expenses.
Those sailboat expenses are expensive.
Uh-huh.
So we do have a plan for the outboard. We're going to be working on it over the next few days. It may just be a matter of fixing the carburetor, but we still have to check for spark. If that doesn't work, we're going to, I don't know, maybe replace it.
Maybe replace it.
We'll see what happens when we get there.
It also sucks that we don't have the propane working yet, but that one seems a little easier right now than our outboard. We just buy some new tanks. Oh well. Ka-ching.
Then there's the through hauls.
Yes, we got the through haul. I am so excited for the through hauls. I like them. I hope they go in nice and neat. They're not, because I said it. But yeah, we got the through hauls. We're going to get those installed when we go on the hard next week. Well, not in the next couple weeks.
Yep. So soon we're going on the hard. We're going to be doing our through hauls. We're going to be doing our bottom, and finding all those nasty surprises lying below the water line.
All the surprises await us. Well,
thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. See you next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.